I'm making a small action adventure about a mouse in a forest. And I changed a lot of stuff in the last couple months, and I haven't made a video in quite a while, so let me tell you about it. I actually recorded this video once already, but then somebody recommended a devlog from Blagis to me, and I felt so inadequate with what I had recorded that I remade this entire thing from scratch. When I first recorded it, it was sunny outside, now it's nighttime. Well, I guess thank you for making me actually write a script for once. First of all, when I started to make my game over 1.5 years ago now, I had a pretty good idea of how I wanted the story to be, but I actually never wrote it all down. It was just kind of hanging out in my head. So last fall, I sat down with a friend of mine who likes writing, I really don't, and we made a whole new story for the game. The base idea stayed the same, but there's a bunch more background information now, and it will hopefully make the development so much easier if I know exactly what I'm working towards. He also wrote a bunch of J.R.R. Martin style background story that happened a long time before the game is actually supposed to take place, which is totally unnecessary, but it's so cool and I'm so happy that he just volunteered to do that. The only change from all that writing that has actually already made its way into the game is the first level changes. As the game is supposed to take place in a forest, the first area I developed was, well, a big forest. But now, with all the changes to the game's story, the forest has been split up into 3 different forest areas that all have their own vibe and will eventually lead to a more specific area, like a swamp or a lake, for example. So they're all supposed to be a little bit more reminiscent of what they're leading towards. I spent a long time figuring out view angles and layouts, and I will probably still work on them for quite a while, because with each playtest I notice something new that the player can't see, or that just feels very awkward to deal with. And I want these areas also to be much more interconnected with each other than the original forest area was, leaning more into the metroidvania aspect of the game. And to achieve that, I implemented a bunch of new gadgets that are supposed to help the player experience a level in a bunch of new ways once collected. And while developing these, I noticed that walking back and forth through that one area I made that gadget in was just very tedious, so I made a whole new test environment to put all of my interactable objects in, which is something that I can really highly recommend to every game developer that has an even slightly bigger project. I just made a blank scene and put all my interactable objects in very close proximity to each other, so now I can test everything without walking more than 10 meters. And I can also spawn in all the individual enemies and test all the gadgets on the enemies very quickly, which is super handy. The first gadget isn't actually really a gadget, it's a hammer, which is mostly just an alternative weapon that uses a slower and heavier moveset to give the player some combat variety. If the development continues like this, I'd like to add a few more weapons so you can choose one that fits your playstyle best. To make this hammer a gadget, I added the ability to smash rocks with it you can otherwise only break with a bomb. Because, as you might know, if you want to make a good Metroidvania, all upgrades or gadgets should not be one-use objects. Otherwise, you're just basically collecting glorified keys that allow you to progress to a new area, for example, by crushing some rocks. To get around that, every upgrade should have multiple uses. I tried to follow that principle with all my new gadgets, like the second one, the grappling hook. It adds a new way to get across platforms and onto new paths, but you can also use it to pull enemies towards you, like those nasty spitting bugs that shoot projectiles from far away and never get close to you. This gadget gave me some headaches, because the player usually can't fall off ledges. That would ruin a lot of my level design. So to stop the player from falling off the ledges, I made a bunch of invisible walls that encase every area to make sure that you can't fall anywhere. Obviously, that creates some issues when we want to swing off a ledge onto another. So to fix that, I made that tree stump that you have to hit with your grappling hook disable the collider for that specific wall once you hit it, and re-enable it once you swung across. I know that this is quite janky, but it works for now. I'm also thinking about making it possible to fall off in some areas, to make some small platforming sections. So this gadget could also come in handy for something like that, and I wouldn't have to disable some invisible walls. The next gadget I made are some climbing shoes that are pretty much directly inspired by The Legend of Zelda Minish Cap, which I loved as a child, even though I actually never made it up Mount Crenel, where you have to use the climbing gadget. This gadget works with the new armor equipping system that allows you to equip various clothes in 3 different slots. We have head, like chest and feet. So these climbing shoes go on your feet so you can actually see them on the model, and they allow you to climb up specific walls. This gadget actually does not have an alternative use yet because I couldn't think of any. So if you have any ideas, please let me know them in the comments below. The last tool I want to talk about today is the watering can. And this one is actually only half implemented yet. It is supposed to be used to water specific plants in an area to grow bridges or help you win a fight by providing support through healing or additional firepower. But right now you can really only water the ground with it. Other than gadgets, I also made some new minigames that I want to quickly touch on. I made a new lockpicking system that adds a challenge and breaks up the usual gameplay routine. So now there are some chests and some locked doors that you can't open with a key you have to find somewhere, but you have to pick the lock. With lockpicks you can find around the world in other chests or from enemies. It's quite heavily inspired from a certain game where you are finally awake. It was surprisingly easy to implement though, and works by defining an angle along the lock that you have to hit with your lockpick in order to turn the lock. With increasing lock difficulty, the angle gets smaller and smaller, and if you are close to the correct angle but haven't hit it completely, you can turn the lock a little bit but not all the way. I had quite a few discussions actually over the last couple months if the lockpicks should be a gadget that you pick up once and then always have in your inventory, or if they should be a disposable item that you can pick up but that you can also lose while lockpicking. And currently I actually really like them as objects that can be broken during lockpicking. So if you turn the lock too much at an angle where the lock doesn't turn, your lockpick breaks and you have to use another one. And if you have no more lockpicks, you fail that lock and you have to find more lockpicks in order to continue. And I like that so much because otherwise, for me, it really feels like it is missing the challenge and it just becomes a mundane time waster. It feels like just like a bloated puzzle that you have to complete in order to get it, but there's no challenge because you can fail as many times as you want. If you have a limited amount of lockpicks in your inventory, you actually have to do it very carefully and think about your moves. And I think that adds a lot more fun, and it's just a lot more challenging than simply having an unlimited amount of lockpicks. I also made a whole new music system that I'm going to talk about in another video because it's kind of its separate thing. So think about subscribing if you're interested in that. And if you haven't heard yet, Take Care actually has its own Steam page now, which is quite exciting for me. It's the first time I've ever set anything like that up. And it was very exciting to get Valve's email back that everything was fine and it's actually working. So think about heading over there and maybe hitting that wishlist button if you like what you see. I'm also thinking about making a playtest there in the nearer future, just to get a lot more feedback on the current state of the game, see how people like it, because I'm kind of getting to the point where I want to improve that demo enough so I can release an official demo, hopefully this summer, as I might be at Gamescom this year. It's not completely, you know, it's not clear yet, but I would like to obviously have the best version of the game ready if that's possible, and even if not, I want to release an official demo this summer onto Steam. So if you'd like to help me develop the game, if you'd like to help me playtest, think about heading over to Steam, or think about heading over to the also brand new Discord server that is meant for discussion around the game and also just feedback and bug reports and all the newest information I'm going to put on the Discord first. So if you're interested in that, take a look. Alright, I think that's it for now. Until next time. See ya.